Did you ever consider the signage at Walt Disney World and the way it works? It's white letters on purple background. Why is that? Well, there's a story behind it, of course. So let's delve into why Disney decided to make signs like this to help people get around the resort. There's a principle called waymarking, and what that allows is for you to have a guide to get around, and it helps you to travel to different places. Now, in the simplest terms, a waymarking system would be like a trail map, where you're at a park and it tells you how to get around to the different places in the trail. So you see this high-level map, like the orange loop there, and it tells you how to get around. Then as you go into the trail, there'll be little markers that direct you toward the trail so you stay in the right place. That's the simplest principle of what waymarking is. Now, as you get into the technological world, we have Apple Maps and Google Maps that do more sophisticated waymarking where you can put points on a map and get directed from one place to another, sort of like this. On a broader scale, you start thinking about all the different signage you have on roads. There's a federal standard for what road signs look like, their shape, their color, and so forth. If we look around at different roads, we see these different things that are recognizable to us, telling us to go different directions, how to get to different places, and having signs that make sense and are consistent among states. The interstate system has a way of doing it that helps you direct you to a certain location. It starts with a very broad and general sort of distance. New York City is 400 miles away. But then as you get closer to New York, you start to get routed to a very specific location within there. So go this way to go to Connecticut, go this way to go to New York. If you continue on your path to New York, you'll start to see very specific districts within there. We can go to this Cadman Plaza, we can go to the Brooklyn Bridge, we can go to the Manhattan Bridge, and it directs you closer to somewhere where you want to be. Once you get into a very localized area, you start to see signs like this. You're at the corner of Madison and East 25th to get very specific once you've made your way to New York City. Now, the signage color is also important. When you're traveling along, you see like green is used for those highway signs to get you to destinations. Brown is typically used for public access types areas or state parks. So when you're traveling along, you'll see a brown sign that goes to a state park. When Walt Disney World first opened, they thought, we're a park, we'll go with the brown signs to kind of represent where we are as a park. So you would see signs like this as you were entering Disney World. They would be all along the highway and they would be in the theme park area once you got toward the Magic Kingdom. You would actually see brown signs that were representative of a state park. So here's an example of one that was actually in use in the 1970s, just to give you a sense of what it looked like. Now, given that the Walt Disney World Resort is about twice the size of the island of Manhattan, there's really a need for a lot more signage. And with the growth of the Walt Disney World Resort and the fact that there were now many more theme parks and many more hotels, Michael Eisner decided it was time to make a change and help people with waymarking so they could find their way around. The Reedy Creek Improvement District is the central government for the area, and because it's run very much like a city, they can decide what kind of signage that they want to have. So Michael Eisner decided to engage someone by the name of Deborah Sussman. She was a designer with a lot of flair who had a lot of interesting ideas. Deborah was based in LA, and because a number of the executives were also in LA because they were actually in Anaheim, they saw some of her work. Most notably, her work on the 1984 Olympics. She created this grand spectacle to make it look really spectacular and draw people in. It was this colorful display of all these different things to represent what the Olympics were in Los Angeles. So the Disney company saw her work, liked it, and decided to hire her to come to work for Walt Disney World and actually design the signage that would be used to get people into the park. Now, of course, they put a green sign up as sort of a road sign to help people get in the park, but from there, she came up with a design scheme that was actually very flamboyant and kind of showed it off a little bit, with these purple signs with white lettering to help people find their way, and then Mickey Mouse heads and arrows on black that would help people direct themselves around when they had arrows and different things to point them in a direction in a sense of waymarking. Now, very similar to the way that these large-scale things work, when you think about it, you're starting off with a very distinct destination in mind. I'm going to Walt Disney World. I'm headed to the theme parks. That gets me to a general area. Then I go more specifically. I'm going to go to Epcot or the Magic Kingdom. And as I'm driving along, I'm going to get closer to some of those areas, and I will have a more specific destination in mind as I get there. So when I look at the signage further on, I see, oh, Magic Kingdom Resorts. all the other resorts, all of these places that are very specific, much like that Madison Avenue and East 25th Street sort of example. It gets me kind of close to where I want to go and directs me around. Now, one of the cool things that happened when I was working there was that we were told that people could never get lost because the signage would always direct them right back around the property so they could find their way to anywhere. Any guest would be able to find their way to somewhere they were going without having to make a U-turn or turn off or ask for directions because the signage was so good. And I would agree, that did turn out that way. Now, of course, Sussman also worked on the Euro Disney designs and making sure that the colorful aspect of that was shown there too. Remember that Euro Disney was designed around the same time that these purple signs started showing up. And she also designed all the logos for the buses, well, at least the last generation of buses that were out there. And now you know the story about the 1,000 or so signs that exist around the Walt Disney World Resort that help with waymarking. And there you go. That's the story of the signage that you see around Walt Disney World.